Appreciate everybody being here, and to that point, it's kind of weird. Got 3 games left. 2 of them are short games, short week games, so the schedule's a little bit different than normal, and then you got a bye week on top of it, so it's kind of interesting that way. Just go back Wisconsin just a little bit, and then talk about UCLA. Again, certainly happy to get the win. Thought it was really a solid performance by our team, and a great environment, and the crowd was really good, so we appreciate that certainly. I think we had a good week of prep and really did a pretty good job in all 3 areas. Pleased for Caleb Johnson to be recognized for his effort and or efforts and all the guys that helped make that possible. So really happy about that. And look at the tape Sunday. There's always things to get better at, things that we can get smoother at and clean up a little bit. So that's part of the task this week, as well as getting ready for our opponent. I think just to mention real quickly, I want to congratulate Jay Higgins on being a Buckus semifinalist. And Jay's just, as you all know, tremendous person, excellent leader, and obviously a very, very good football player. So got a couple really good linebackers in this game, coincidentally. This week, short week for us, and certainly a tough challenge. Captains, we've got Jay Higgins and Quinn Schulte defensively, and you got Luke Lachey and then Logan Jones offensively. So those will be our 4 captains going into the game. Medically, not a lot of updates really. Luke, I think, has a chance. He's, practicing a little bit limited right now, but practicing, and we'll see how it goes this week. I think he's close, but we have to plan to go without him, and the guys that stepped in and working in his spot have done a really nice job. So we'll just, see what the week looks like on that front. And then Cade will not make the game. He will not be ready to go. So hopefully during the bye week we can get him back and running a little bit. Otherwise, really pretty much things are status quo. UCLA, we look at them, we see a really impressive football team, and they're playing well right now. It's very clear. I think there are probably 3 key things you have to look at when you look at their team right now and their season thus far. In some ways, it's a little bit like when we played Washington, but first and foremost, they've got a new staff with a lot of new faces on it. So that's one thing, and then a fair amount of new players as well. Second thing is the schedule that they played or have played thus far. I know people talk about tough schedules, but they started out with an away trip to Hawaii, which is no piece of cake, and played midday out there. Then came back. They played Indiana, LSU, Oregon, and Penn State. So I think that's pretty steep challenge. 4 teams in the top 12, pretty impressive there. And then third thing, you look at what they've done the last three games out, and they've really looked like a good football team, real close. Tough loss to Minnesota a couple of weeks ago, and then they've gone on the road and won twice very impressively at Rutgers and last week at Nebraska. And one thing that jumped out at me in both the last 2 games, the home team got 1 possession in the first quarter. Nebraska had 3 plays offense first quarter, and I think in the Rutgers series, I think they won 8 or 9, had 1 possession, 8 or 9 plays, but other than that, that's all they had the ball. So UCLA went on the road and really controlled the ball in the first half in both those games. Did a really good job there. Going back to their staff, Coach Foster's a UCLA Bruin. Played there and had an outstanding career. Played in the NFL and just spent most of his coaching career back at UCLA and is doing a really good job. Then it's kind of a contrast, if you will. Their defensive staff has got a collegiate background. Coordinator has been at UCLA a couple of years prior to that. Played up at Washington, coached and played up there. Has got a really good resume, and they're doing a good job. And then offensively, a real pro flavor with Eric Bieniemy, another really good running back, coaching the offense. And Juan Castillo is a longtime NFL line coach. His son Greg played for us, and Greg's with the Chiefs now, doing a great job in their personnel, college scouting. So a little bit of a pro flavor, but a little bit of contrast. And then just overall, the quarterback's really playing well, doing a good job leading them. Defensively, they're extremely active, extremely aggressive, extremely athletic. And I mentioned the linebacker earlier, that number 49, Schlesinger. I think Schlesinger is how he pronounces it, but he's a good football player. I don't know his name exactly, but I know he can play, and you better have him accounted for each and every play. And the same thing on special teams. He's just a really active player, walk-on, as I understand it. And I tell you, he's active. He's really disruptive and good football player, but all their guys really go hard to the ball. So, it's pretty impressive. And then their special teams look to be really good in all phases. And they've settled in on their specialists. They went back and forth a little bit early, and But I think they're in a good place there. So all in all, just a tough football team to play against. And then the last thing, the venue obviously is different and unique. I'd compare it. We went to Wrigley last year, a little bit of a different change of pace, from what we're used to, and certainly playing the Rose Bowl. It's a very historic venue, as all of you know, and it'll be interesting to be there for an away game in conference play. So that's pretty much it. And then last thing, just our kid captain. We've got 9-year-old Natalie Mokel. She's from Olwine, and she was born prematurely over at the Stead Family Hospital. And when she was born at 1 pound 5 ounces, if you can imagine, had a few surgeries in the first couple of weeks. Her blood system was needed some regulation, so they took care of that. Spent 4 months getting stronger, getting healthier, and then has come out and she's had a few bumps in the road, but today she's a really healthy, active 4th grader. And I'm told she's a real enthusiast for dance, softball, volleyball. Mom's nickname for her is Spitfire, so it gives you a little bit of idea of who she is and what she is. So just again, a great story and a great example of the work that gets done across the street. So just happy that she's up and running, doing a great job, and we'll be honored to be thinking about her this weekend. So with that, I'll throw it out for questions.
Document with The Athletic. I wanted to ask you about how this week has been condensed in the preparation and how maybe different. Is it any different at all from what you experienced, like say going to Maryland a few years ago? Or is it just, hey, it's just another hour and 20 minutes in the air, and that's the only difference?
Yeah, that's probably the best comparative, really. And it was different. Now you're going East Coast versus West Coast, but we're probably just handling pretty much the same as we did that trip. We didn't make a big deal of it. I told the team, when I was at Maine, we drove to Rutgers, whatever that was, 9 or 10 hours, which we split up going down, but coming back, it was a straight shot. So this is not exactly a big challenge that way. And the weather probably a little better too, but so we're just trying to minimize all that, and just it's another away game. It is a short week, and we've had I think 11 of those since 15. So just it is what it is, and kind of part of college football nowadays. Yeah, he has. He's throwing the ball well, efficiently, and getting it to a lot of different people, including the backs, and doing a good job there. And then last couple of weeks, he's pulled it down and made some big runs too. So if you're not sound on what you do defensively, he's not afraid to do that. And I wouldn't describe him as a run primary quarterback, but he's a guy who can do that. And it's one more way you can get hurt defensively. And both in the last 2 wins, those were key plays.
What would it mean, I guess? What does this mean to you personally, and also just knowing that Iowa hasn't won inside the Rose Bowl in 66 years?
Yeah, we did really well there in the 50s, right? Really well. Good record. And then it's funny bringing that up because after our Washington game, I got a very nice text from one of our good players from that team, and he says he still carries a little scar tissue from that day. I still remember a punt that went about 70 yards. Reggie punted about 70 yards, and we had the offensive line in those days covering the punt. So you can just imagine the visual, the gap between the ball and the wave coming to cover. You talk about bad football. But the other thing I remember about the Rose Bowl, me personally, is that had a chance on the 2 that I was there for as an assistant to be involved in a game where 2 of the best coaches of my lifetime were on the other sideline, Don James, Washington, and Coach Donahue with UCLA. I think 2 of the better coaches, certainly in the last, whatever that is, 40 years. So, but yeah, we haven't had a good memory there. I haven't had one personally. And, it's not like we get there, that often, but when you do get there, you'd hope you could have something good come out of it. And the only parallel I can give you, we never won in Pittsburgh when I was in the NFL, my hometown. And, but at least we were able to change that here, so maybe we can, break the streak here, hopefully.
Good morning. I just at offensive line coach a few years ago. What do you remember about what sort of stood out about George during that process that kind of made you feel confident in that hire?
He first and foremost. I mean, as you met, anytime we hire anybody, you want to talk to people that really know them and that have worked with them. And one of the guys I really have a ton of respect for in this profession actually worked with George at Illinois and basically mentored him. So he spoke very highly of George in that. But I'll go back 26 years ago. Really, when I got here, there was somebody on our roster who was playing okay. But everywhere I go, they really ask. People would ask about how so and so doing. And when you come in with a lot of notoriety, it's not always fair. And I don't think he asked for it. It's just something that happened. And he had a really good career at Southeast Polk, obviously. But it's an adjustment coming here, just like when you go to the NFL. If you're lucky enough to go there, that's a big adjustment. There's a lot to learn, and the unfairness part of it, you can't change it. I understand that, and I'm not complaining about it. But it's just sometimes the expectations aren't realistic to what a player has to do, and there's a lot to learn. And playing in the back end for us, especially the safety positions, a lot of communication, a lot of things those guys are responsible for. So it's not easy, and so he's since he's been here. I want to say this, and I say this in a positive way. Not that all 5-stars have arrogance to him, but I mean, you would never know he was 5-star or no star. He's been the same guy every day since he's been here. Just a really humble, hardworking guy, great person, positive attitude, and everything you want in a player. So it's fun to see guys have success. And Marshall Yonda stood back there last Friday talking to our guys about really being molded through failure, as a player. And he experienced a lot. And he experienced a lot in the NFL too, and ends up being whatever he was, 12-time Pro Bowl player. But the rest of the story was it didn't just happen for him. He had to really work his way up through injury, being benched, disappointment, all that stuff. But he just kept working, and that's what you look for with any player. And so I'm happy for all our guys when they start to, when it starts becoming fun for them.
John Steffi, the Gazette. Hi, Kirk. With tight end Zach Ortworth, kind of what stood out to you about him over these last 2 years, and what was it about him that prepared him for kind of being thrown in the mix both of these years with injuries?
Yeah, I can't say what prepared him for it, but his recruitment's kind of interesting. Gary Kornfeld was a coach down there, retired last, I don't know how many years it's been now for Gary. Gary was an assistant when I used to recruit down there in the 80s. So I've known him a long time. And he called, I don't know what year it would have been, maybe 10th grade or 11th grade for Zach, and just said, here's a guy you got to keep an eye on. And he doesn't call very often. So we appreciated that. And we were able to get in early with Zach, and our message resonated with he and his family. And, I can't say enough about him, the way he stepped in. He just plays. And it's not like he's not a 4'4" guy or a 270-pound guy, but he's a good football player. And he's mentally tough. He has to be, because he played last year as a freshman. This year he's all of a sudden he's carrying a heavy load, and doesn't seem to faze him at all. He's the same guy. He's been the same guy since he's been here, which I think is impressive. And I got to throw in Johnny Pascuzzi, and March too, because we got a couple pretty good players out right now, and nobody's talked about it. We're not making it a big deal. Those guys have really done a good job, and that's what you look for. That's what you hope you have on a team, where guys are ready to go in there and take advantage of opportunity. And so all those guys are doing a good job. Zach's been really impressive with what he's done so far.
Blake Hornsey, Hawkeye headquarters. Kirk, I know after last week's game you mentioned that you were a little bit surprised just how dominant you were, like in a rivalry like Iowa, Wisconsin. But just overall with the run game, you guys are first in the Big Ten in rushing yards. You're 10th overall in the country. Are you surprised in a way with how effective this run game has come together just over the course of the whole season?
Yes and no. The no part would be, I guess no part would be all those guys, but like the line, I thought we had the potential. I kind of suggested that back in August, that maybe we're getting close to where we'd like to be, and we haven't been there. I've said that very openly for the last couple of years, and it's a long litany of things, and it really doesn't matter at this point. But the bottom line is these guys have fought through injury. They've fought through the scar tissue that they got. When Yonda talked about being molded by failure, I think all those guys could have put their hand up. So all the stuff that has happened, they just kept pushing, and George kept encouraging them, and we're starting to see them, I think, generate a little, maybe developing some confidence, true confidence in themselves, and they should, because they've worked hard. So that's helped. Our tight ends are doing a good job. Our receivers are doing a good job in the blocking game. And I'll go back to, when I was in the NFL, you watch, in those days it was the Broncos, and then pretty soon, Kansas City, those teams that ran the ball while those receivers were doing a good job blocking. And then the other component is Caleb, and I think all our backs are running really well right now, but Caleb has clearly taken another step. Talking about Xavier a little while ago, it's year 3. And just in general terms, that seems to be where guys, really start to get traction. I'm fine if they get it sooner than that, but year 3 is kind of usually an area where guys start to really kind of figure out how to play and how to do things, not just on the field, but also off the field, and just, really the little things that make a difference in being successful. And Caleb has been extremely focused and just playing outstanding football right now.
In the back, John.
Kirk Johnson with WHO TV. It feels like maybe after that Michigan State game, things could have wobbled and gone the wrong direction, but the last 2 weeks, 40 points in each game. Have you seen like a renewed energy or confidence once things started rolling and got in your favor just a little bit?
Yeah, it's all about learning, and every season, every moment teaches you something typically. And the bottom line is, the week wasn't good enough prior to Michigan State in retrospect, and certainly what we did in that game. You're not going to win a lot of Big Ten games playing the way we played. It is what it is, and we own that record or own that film. It's our film, and your film's your resume. So, the question is, was that one of those nights? Is that one of those learning experiences, or is it going to be a tendency or a trend? And everybody's got a choice there. So I give our guys credit; they got back on their feet. I think we were better focused, and came up with a win the next week, and then came back to work following that and had the right focus and move forward. But the season's full of twists and turns. I say it every year. You just never know what they're going to be or when they're going to happen, and it's really a matter of how can you navigate through the ups and the downs. And the downs are hard, but it's part of what we do. So you got to be able to deal with it.
Chad, nice to come again. We know next to nothing about Jackson Stratton.
Takes 3 of us. You know his nickname?
No.
Okay. Oh no. Shaggy. That's Shaggy. Scooby-Doo.
He does kind of look like that. You referenced in the post game, Marco got hurt in Monday's practice, so obviously Jackson didn't start the week as the number 2 quarterback. I guess how have you seen him, getting thrust into this? How have you seen him adjust to this? Is it better this week now that he's getting the full 2 reps? And what would it be like if he got me?
Yeah, that's a great question right there. It's still interesting how guys get here sometimes. I've said that about Hayden Large, and Tim was out there checking on some quarterbacks back in the spring and stopped by in San Diego and saw Jackson. And, he had played for Colorado State last year, was there, and looking to go somewhere else. So it's funny how it worked out, but he ended up coming. Met his mom and dad here when we had a luncheon for all the newcomers in August, and great people. And, none of us envisioned this happening, but, he impressed us in camp. He can throw the ball really well. And, but then you kind of, start getting in game mode and all that kind of stuff, so we really didn't see him much. And I thought he did a really good job last week. End of the week, I think maybe it started reality dawned on him a little bit, and I could be in there. And I think all of us are trying not to think too hard about that right now. But if he goes in there, he's practiced well this week. He's really learning, and he's a very capable thrower. So that's his strength. And we'll see what happens. But hopefully we just kind of keep the status quo and just keep moving. But he's done a good job.
Scott Dockerman again with The Athletic. I think as the years go on, we kind of draw parallels to the past from some of the previous teams you've coached. And this one, to me, kind of reminds me of 08, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, because 07, you had a lot of injuries, Brugman getting taken out right at the end of camp, all those things, and then really struggling. But then in 08, it just gradually got better and better, and the running game was fantastic. Do I see it right that there's some sort of level of similarities between the offensive line, especially the growth that they made? And did you look back yourself and kind of see how things progressed as maybe a guide or a lesson or something?
Yeah, all the time. And to the point earlier about like, you know, guys come in ranked. First thing I think about with 07 is a guy like Dace Richardson, who was highly acclaimed and rightfully so. Like he was the real deal, and how injuries affected his career. And that's a hard part because I mean, there's not a better young guy than Dace. Tremendous person. He was such a good player. He and Tony Moyaki, same high school, and you know, just had a tough time here with the injury thing, and you know, it's a shame. So this isn't always fair. That's a hard thing. But yeah, that line went through a lot of stuff, and then in 08 we started getting a little confidence and getting things going a little bit. And Sean obviously ran the ball really well, and you know, if we can, the point to the players is that you know that there's parallels thus far, but it's all about how you finish. And you know, that team finished. You know, I think we won 6 out of 7 or something like that, and you know, really played well. That once we got through that 3-3 span, that three game deal, but it you know, takes the right kind of people, and you know, at least our guys are working at it. We'll see what happens here in the next couple of weeks.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. We've seen Jalen Watson get meaningful snaps as a true freshman. Just what has he done to earn that opportunity so early?
Yeah, he's just done a good job in practice, basically. And then the other part is that we've had some attrition. You know, Nestor's out with a hamstring, so it opens the door for somebody to jump in there and get an opportunity. And Jalen's been doing a good job. He had an injury in camp, missed a lot of time in August, so he's overcome that and impressed. And he's been on the scout team. He's been working with the defense a little bit. Obviously now, you know, he gets a chance to be with the defense, but you know, it's all about what he does moving forward. But he's a good prospect. We really like Jalen.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, we talked to Jazzy earlier today, and he said that Liddell's like a father figure to those in the running back room, and it just seems like Liddell's kind of fostered a competitive culture, but a lot of accountability, but a very selfless kind of community in that running back room. How would you describe Liddell's impact on the room and kind of his coaching style in general?
You know, Dan McCartney saw Liddell coaching in high school. Liddell was doing a camp or a combine, I think, up in the Sarasota, that area over there, and you know, he lives on the other side of the state, or did live on the other side of the state. And Dan watched him at camp at whatever that was a couple of years ago. And when he and I talked, he said he reminded him of a young Carl Jackson. That for anybody that worked with Carl Jackson, as Dan and I did, that's the highest compliment you can give anybody, any coach. I don't care about position, but Carl had a really good way about him. Very direct. You know, he's a great mentor to his players, but also very direct, and he was demanding of it, you know, but it was always in a good way, a healthy way. And Liddell is not a big talker, but he's been a big doer, you know, throughout his whole career. You know, I think he was a big talker when he was here in school, you know, but he was one of the toughest guys I've ever seen. I still tease him about, you know, to survive the '99 season. I think he had over 4 carry. I don't know how he did it. We couldn't block anybody. And so I was teasing him about that. It was like a crash dummy running up in there. But he had such a good career, and he's the same guy as a coach and as a professional. He's got a great family on top of it. So I mean, he's just a model guy, really a model guy, and he's doing a really nice job with those guys.
I want to see from the KGN. I want to ask about Logan Jones. Just what, in your estimation, has made him ready for this spot as captain? You know, a kid who started as a defensive player, got moved over, had to replace Tyler Linderbaum a few years ago, and now getting ready to step in as captain.
Yeah, and I full disclosure, I screwed that up because we didn't move him until spring. We should have done it in December, like we did with Tower. So I blew that one. Probably set his career back with, you know, I don't know, half a year or something like that, really. But you know, all he does is work. You know, he's a pretty quiet guy. He's not really outspoken, but he just works every day. He shows up, and you know, he's gone through some injury issues. You know, shoulder surgery that, you know, and that's not uncommon, unfortunately, in this profession or this game. But you know, he just shows up and works. He's respected. Everything he does is first class, and comes from a great family. You know, mom, sister, just, you know, super people. But ever since he's shown up here, he's the same guy every day. And I don't want to call him Tower because that's not a fair comparison. They wear the same number, but there are a lot of parallels in terms of work habits, their attitude, you know, their demeanor, all those kinds of things. And we talked about the safety being a switchboard position. You know, the center is a critical position for communication and just kind of stabilizing things, and he does a really good job with that too.
Last one, Blake. Blake Horst, headquarters. Coach, I think I know the answer to this question, but you know, I know this isn't a bold trip. I know this is you guys are trying to win
for sure.
win a game this week. No, but there's been fans who have been looking forward to this game for quite a while. Some of the players said they've never even been west of Nebraska at all. So I was just curious, is there any appeal to playing a game in Los Angeles to you?
Not really. I mean, the venue will be cool. I mean, but it's kind of like Wrigley. I'll explain it to you this way. My wife would be the first one to tell you because she still laughs. I got drenched at the Super Bowl when the Bears and Indy played. And her response was, "Well, you mean nobody?" And we got home at 3 o'clock because we didn't have a ride lined up coming out. "Oh, you mean nobody drove you to the game? Nobody gave you a coat when it rained?" All that kind of stuff. So, but that's really kind of our life, and it's one of the most enjoyable things I've done in my life is take my daughters on college visits because I get to see the college, not just the stadium. We get off the bus, we go play. We go to the airport, go to a hotel, go to a stadium, get off, play, get back on the bus, airport, and you're on your way home. So we'll see less of Los Angeles than anybody affiliated with the, following the team, that's for sure. And quite frankly, I mean, that's where we're going. We're going to play a game, a tough game against a tough opponent. And we all know that, like we know we got our work cut out and this is going to be, a tough challenge for us. But, like a lot of things, I mean, that's the stuff, hopefully somebody can take some pictures and we'll look at those during the bye week and, hey, that's cool, all that kind of stuff. But I still haven't seen those mountains. Well, I take it back. We went in 87, would have been the 88 Rose Bowl, because we played in the Holiday Bowl, stayed out there a day, and then we came up as a staff and saw USC and Michigan State. So I have seen the Rose Bowl like as a tourist, a fan, and it was cool. It's a game. That's really what it gets down to. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks.